It's now time for KTN News Center. Good morning once again, and thank you so much for making time for us this Monday, the 7th of August 2023. We want to begin with our top stories this hour. Before that, we shall be engaging the Secretary General of the Kenya National Association of Private Colleges, Dr. Ekra Ndungu, on the challenges facing TVET institutions in the country and what should be done to revolutionize them. My name is Purity Museo Nzuki. Our top stories. Kenya set to mark 25 years since the most tragic terrorist attack in the country that saw the death of more than 200 people. Also, Kenya Kwanza Dialogue Team and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition set to begin talks on Wednesday after the two teams agreed on a common date. Meanwhile, police spokesman has confirmed at least 30 people have been killed and 100 injured after train derails in southern Pakistan. Wounded passengers moved to nearby hospitals as rescue teams tried to free people from the twisted wreckage. And both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya maintains that there will be no handshake ahead of talks as some leaders pour cold water on the possibility of a positive outcome from the dialogue. Right, and on the state of TVET institutions in Kenya, for years, technical vocational education training TVET colleges have been grappling with an array of challenges. Top of the list is limited budgets. Now, to address this challenge, Kenya has partnered with the World Bank in a project designed to address skills and mismatch to improve quality training in selected institutions. To expound more on what this means in the sector, once again, we are joined by Dr. Ekra Ndungu, who is the Secretary General at the Kenya National Association of Private Colleges, that's KENAPCO. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and let's begin by talking about the partnership between Kenya. We are going to see more funding now to TVET institutions because most of the complaints from stakeholders like you have been that we don't have necessary and enough funding to have the necessary skilled personnel as well as the resources that we may need to train our students. What's your take on that?
Yeah, on a positive note, is a plus for the nation, and it's good when we see World Bank now also coming in to support TVET.
Yeah.
Now, coming from the private sector and the private TVETs, for us, we are worried whether we'll be included in this kind of a great initiative that is happening in East Africa. I see the funding is between Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Kenya.
Yeah.
And of course, Kenya being the largest economy, we are the largest producers of skilled labor. And if you look at what we are trying even to export across the world, it is basically skilled labor, and that is TVET. So our urge would be that we would be included in this such initiative because we have not been privileged as private TVETs, because even when there was help, our private institutions and students never used to get that kind of funding. When we talk of placement of students to the private TVETs, our institutions still have not even been able to get that from government.
Yeah.
So it has been a long lobbying journey, the last since 2011, and we are a sector that has participated in supporting the government so much, because even when there never used to be a law governing the sector, it was funded by some of the private TVETs to so that we could get the 2013 Act.
Yeah.
So this is a good initiative. We are clapping. At the same time, we are also knocking and asking, could we also be included in this?
Yeah, and just even before we look at what the private sector is doing, let's even stay with the public sector. Yes, there is goodwill from the government, but looking at the TVET institutions and the position that they are in, even from the public perception on joining TVET institutions, there are a lot of challenges that they are facing. Before we talk about the budget and the financing, let's talk about why, for instance, most parents or even students would not so much be excited to joining TVET institutions. What are some of the misconceptions and notions against joining a skilled training institution?
Yeah. This has been the negative connotation that we have had towards TVET. And this was one of the wrongs that happened in the previous administration. This was during the Kibaki administration, where we had so many polytechnic becoming universities, which was a good thing. We needed an educated population, but we left a gap. And that act itself sent the wrong message to the public, that if you go to a polytechnic or you go to a vocational institution, you're a failure, which is wrong, which is a wrong perception. And it also starts even with our parents and our exposure. And people do not say, are not proud of themselves that I work as a mason, I work as a plumber. We try to belittle such kind of professions, and we are so focused onto the conventional professions, and we are so focused on the conventional way of saying that if you are a success, you must have made it to the university, which is wrong. And also try making our young people feel like they have no career pathway if they join a TVET, which is also not true. Because looking at what happened during the 2015 TVET strategy for Kenya, which I was a part of, we came up with K and QA to equalize your studies, that even if you have a degree, we can equate it to a particular diploma, and you can find that you're at the same par. And if you start from an artisan course, you can go to a certificate course, to a diploma course, to a higher diploma, to a degree, to a master's, to a PhD.
Right.
So whether you start from a certificate course, you have a career pathway if that is your dream, to become an academician. And also, we also need to let people pride themselves in joining TVET and becoming TVET. And the case study for TVET is an everyday thing, where we are at every day. And allow me to use you as a case study. I see you have a lovely dress. That's a tailor who did that. That's TVET. I can see you have a very nice face beat. So that means a cosmetologist worked on your face. I can see your hair is on point. That's hair and dressing, and that's TVET. For us to be on air right now, there is somebody who is working on our sound. Those are sound engineering professionals, a producer. So we need to let our young people know that going to TVET does not mean that you're a failure, or even getting an E or a D or a D+. You're not a failure in life. It only means that you've been tested for things that you're not passionate about. If you're the people who are hands and competence kind of people with their professions, then these are the people who should join TVET, and they thrive. And you are a success so long as you're able to do what you do every day passionately and contented and happy.
And you know, these decisions is not just for TVET. We've seen, probably you or me, probably you took a course at the university because your parents wanted you to take this. These things are here with us. But when it comes to embracing the TVET institutions and trainings, education, it's a bit difficult, or even the situation is worse. Is there enough motivation from stakeholders like you? Do we also have support, like your organization, private institutions, supporting students who've gone through the training so that they are also at the leadership? And so when they're talking about I'm a plumber and I'm in this position, then it's easy to relate with them.
One of the things is that we really need to encourage everybody to be proud of what they do every day. If I am a plumber, be proud and say that I am a plumber and I am the best that you can get in the market. Just like the way you find a lawyer saying I'm the best that you can find in the market, the doctor, because we cannot survive without these professions. You will get the high profile, the conventional high profile professions that we used to talk of years ago. But when you enter into a restaurant, you need the TVET person to serve you and to cook for you, the chef. And when you are driving your car, it is faulty, you need the mechanic to work on your vehicle. So we need to encourage and embrace the professions and make people proud to be in TVET institutions, because we glorified university education, and that brought the preference for university education. Even when somebody really knew I'm pursuing a career that I don't like, but I want to tell people I am in the university. Sometimes the challenge as a career coach also is the parents. Sometimes they live their dream through their children. They push their kids to do things they don't like just because they want to have that adult peer pressure balanced, that my son is doing architecture, the other one is doing medicine, the other one is doing law. That is the kind of introduction that we want to do, which is good. However, are they happy about these careers? Is this what they would thrive in? Is this what they would love to do on a daily basis?
And let me try and understand the parents. Why as a parent you would want to discourage your child from going to TVET institutions. When you look at how even they are paid, they're not paid so well. So as a parent, you also want your child to live a better life even when you're not there. So how can this change so that we see also the people that have gone through TVET institutions and training, they're not paid as much as we are witnessing today? Because I think this is different when you look at other countries, especially the developed countries. The TVET, the people that have gone through TVET institutions, or the training, the skilled personnel in the society, they're the ones that are highly paid versus what we are seeing in the developing nations.
And that is a perception, a public perception that we have, that the TVETs are underpaid. If you look at the statistics of HELB, who pays their loan faster? It is the TVET student. If you look at how much you spend on making your hair one weekend, is that person really underpaid? Because you know the much that you spend on that. If you look at how much you pay your mechanic just to help you in 30 seconds, or in sometimes I've had that experience. I think I'm stalled, and you call somebody and in 3 minutes they are done and they tell you it's 2,000. So how many other professions are able to make money that way? Look at the amount of money that is paid to a foodie a single day when they come to the site. So I think we have had that song of the negative perception about TVET, that it's dirty work, it's underpaid, people don't make money out of it, and which is a wrong perception. And I think we need to back this with data. We need to back this up with testimonials. We can have more testimonials of students in TVET institutions or graduates telling their stories. That will motivate other people to be able to join TVET, so that the government has a dream of 100% transition. This dream will never be realized if we do not encourage the people who have gotten the C- and below to join the TVET institutions, which are the largest population.
And why must we even in the first place have only, because there's also a perception that those joining TVET institutions are the ones that didn't or performed dismally in their exams, and therefore if you're joining a TVET institution, then you are a poor performer, you are not highly ranked in the society. Is there a way that we can incorporate this so that even a person that scored an A, a B plus, has also an opportunity and has the motivation to join a TVET institution?
This has to start with our high schools. The perception or the message that our teachers are passing on to our students in high schools. Because even as a TVET expert, if you look for an opportunity to go and motivate the students, and somebody else from the university look for an opportunity to motivate the students, the one from the university will be given an opportunity. Because the schools are looking into how many are we taking to the university this year. Nobody is asking to do what, but our data is we took 50 to the university this year, we took 100 to the university this year. But after that, how many of them have been able to succeed? But now, as we also, so that we don't just beat the drums of complaining, this year, things have been better. We saw 9,700, I think, and 31 students. I'm not. It's 9,000 and something, just to be keen on the figures, opting to join TVET who had qualified for university admission. So there is a change on how people are viewing TVET. And this needs to be encouraged, because for countries to grow the way they have been, Singapore, Korea, Germany, where they are at, it is TVET. And most of the students, even in Germany, they prefer to do TVET than even to proceed to university.
And why they prefer that. Let's talk about the importance of getting the skills, because the job market is shifting and they're now looking more, not on the paper, but on the skill that you have.
True. And the future of work is about skill. Why will I pay you? I will not pay you just to sit behind a desk. an administrator or do something. I'll pay you because of some expertise, because of something that you can do, and nobody else is able to do it. And when people train themselves, the skills courses, especially in TVET, we talk of somebody becomes an artistic baker. It's not just about baking anymore. How is the presentation of the cake that you're doing? Somebody becomes the best electrician that you can get. So this person will automatically be preferred from the other people. And this is now a practical case study and practical truth. I had a conversation with one of the engineers at Safaricom. We were just talking about education, and they were saying that they get students who have done telecommunication engineering from the university, but for them to trust them with their network, they have to train them for 2 years again.
Yeah.
Why do we have to do that when these students also can be able to do some TVET training and some expertise for them to, like the dual training that is coming up, because somebody is supposed to be able to get that. So,
but we still have claims that despite students going through the TVET institutions, let me say here in the country or in the region, they are still not equipped enough skills-wise. So what are some of the challenges that TVET institutions are going through so that, yes, they're supposed to train on skills, but they cannot achieve that on the current situation that they are in, or position that they are in as we speak?
Some of the challenges that TVET institutions face, one is funding. And this has been our number one lobby agenda for each administration that comes in. The TVET space has been elevated by the Uhuru administration. The TVET space is still being elevated by the Kenya Kwanza administration, which is a plus and which is a positive thing, the effort that the government is making to the TVET side. But if they were to equate this, that even the donors, because donors give a lot of machinery, but they go to the public TTIs, if there can be a way of balancing and a way of sharing of these resources between the public and private, because we have a public and private partnership law. So these are things that we can be able to implement to support each other and to know that this is for the good of the nation. This is for the good of us making it to the Vision 2030, because for us to achieve that as a country, what do we need? We need a lot of technicians, and these technicians will be able to produce them through TVET institutions. So if we can strike a balance and support the private institutions in the same way that we are supporting the government institutions, I think it can be a big plus. And we saw this happening in the previous administrations, where the private universities were being supported by government. So the private TVETs should also enjoy the same support, because we are citizens. There is no public student or private student. They are all Kenyan students who deserve government support, just like the way they get the support from private primary schools from government. So even at private TVET level, they should be able. And a project like this big project by World Bank involving the private TVETs, which are relevant. We have so many of us spread across the nation. So just synchronizing and seeing that we need to produce more of these, which TVETs are doing good at this, which TVETs are doing good at this, then we can be able to harmonize and synchronize, and it will be good for the nation. Yes.
And apart from funding, Daktari, there's also the question of the expertise that we have, the expertise that we have in our TVET institutions. Some say that it's wanting. We don't have adequate or qualified, majority of them, personnel and experts to teach our students. There's also the question of resources. I mean, it's expected in TVET institutions that much of the work is on the practical aspect and not theory aspect. But again, we've seen complaints that we're seeing theory-based training in institutions, TVET institutions, that are supposed to be more of practical training.
Okay, and you see, that is when we were starting this conversation, we talked about the negative connotation about TVET. And the negative connotation about TVET is not only the public perception, it is also the perception of the institutions and everything about TVET. I'll give you practical case studies. Do you know most of the TVET institutions are founded by experts in that area? We talk about one institution that trains counseling, that has even developed the counseling curriculum for the country, is the current chair for KCPA, the Counseling Association, a professor. Are we still going to say that we are not qualified? We have an institution, East Africa Airline, one of my members, which is founded by a former pilot who worked for many years, including working for Boeing 700. If you listen to the story, it's very inspiring. Is that not an expert in that area when they come and train somebody about cabin crew and other courses? We talk about private institutions like Outspan Medical College, which is our member, which is founded in a hospital. These are experts. They are already, they have an institution and they have a hospital. There are so many, the list is endless. We talk about the ones that are training social work. These are experts who have worked with NGOs over the years. And these are people who have the skills and they decide now I would need to share these skills with other people. How do I do it? I can start a TVET institution and start training. So before we bash institutions and say that they are being run by people who are not experts or people who don't really know what they are doing, we need to find out. However, we have a shortage of trainers. But it is the population that we train in a year. Because since the operationalization of the TVET Act of 2013, then the only producer of TVET trainers is the Kenya School of TVET, which is the former KTTC. They have not been able to produce enough that can be absorbed. Even the government TTIs are still short of trainers. Our private TVETs are still short of trainers. But that does not mean that the people who are running the private TVETs are inadequate or they don't have the qualified, they don't have the skill. Yes.
All right. And how about the resources? Because yes, we might have the expertise, the experts, you said they are not enough. That's one of the challenges. But again, do we have the resources? Is there a concern that yes, our TVET institutions could at some percentage be theory based because we don't have enough resources to facilitate the skills based training?
Yes, and this is where all the fathers come in, and the fathers are the banks, SACCOs, and the World Bank, and the donors. We have GIZ, KFW. The list is endless of the fathers who are funding the TVET sector. If they can harmonize the funding even to include, because inclusivity is in our constitution, that we need to be inclusive when we are dealing with everyone. So I think we will be able to now have enough resources in our TVET institutions. And if we do not sell the negative narrative about the TVET sector, if we keep the positivity, if we keep the hope, even the banks will be easy for them to come in and support the institutions, because banks only need to know that they can recover their resources or they can recover their funds. But when the perception is that TVET looks like it is not attractive, it is not attractive, even when you go to your financier, they'll still say this sector, we don't fund this sector. And if we keep the positive vibe, even the donors will see that we also need to support these in a blanket manner, everybody, because everybody is doing something just to leave an impact and to make their nation better.
And I want to take a break, Dr. Ekra. When we return, at least maybe you can also be taking us through what other nations are doing and better than us, and what lessons we can learn as a country from those nations. All right, we are speaking with Dr. Ekra Ndungu, the Secretary General at the Kenya National Association of Private Colleges, KENAPCO, and we discuss matters TVET, in state of TVET institutions in the country, and why financing is a major problem towards advancing the skill-based training. Stay with us. We are back shortly.